Hey there, everyone. Mike Mibach with KTVU Fox 2 in the San Francisco Bay Area. We're talking coronavirus and real estate, and we're lucky enough to have Vanessa Bergmark, CEO of Red Oak Realty, join us for the conversation. Vanessa's in Oakland, California right now. What are we experiencing right now, Vanessa? I'll just kind of throw it wide open. People are moving out of the big cities, not just in the Bay Area, but across the country, I guess, and looking for land, space out there in the suburbs.
Yep. Well, thanks so much for having me, first of all. So yeah, what we are seeing is basically a confluence of events come together. It's like the trifecta. And frankly, the fires right now are adding a whole other level to what's going on with real estate. But what we had was incredibly high prices, a huge demand at the beginning of the year, and that's after years of incredibly expensive, high cost of living in the Bay Area. Couple that with this pandemic where we were, sheltered in place in counties across the Bay Area that took a very hard stance and were some of the, earliest in the nation to shut down.
Yeah.
And then you have the reopening of that. And still, I think a lot of, county mandates that change sort of the way that we are living right now. Bars, restaurants, nightclubs, events, all the things that drive city living, urban living, have been stripped away practically overnight. And they're not making a resurgence just yet. So couple that with what will the fall look like? How long will this pandemic continue? And you're starting to see what has been whispered about and now is starting to come to fruition, which is a push out of the urban areas and into suburbs and really truly rural areas as well.
Yeah, let's talk about inventory, because if you told me back in January that the city of San Francisco was going to have a 96% increase in inventory, housing inventory, that according to Zillow, I wouldn't have believed you as someone who grew up in the Bay Area. But that's a big number, Vanessa. Would you agree or no there?
It's a really big number, and I think what it is part of that number right now is people having the time to say, wait a second, if I really don't have to work in the city and commute, because part of the, we've got these prices, but we've also got traffic.
You've got like Google's and Facebook's saying, hey, you don't have to come back for a year, right?
And then they're setting a precedence that other companies are saying, well, is it a liability if I don't fall in line? So you're starting to see what is becoming sort of like, there's an imitation factor going on of like, well, if they're going to do it, then I'm going to do it. Then you have an entire opportunity that never existed before. You have, for the first time in the history of working, that you don't have to live where you work. So if that's the case, all bets are off. You could go home to family, you could go back somewhere, you could try the mountains, you could try anything, because if your company is allowing you to keep your job, keep your employment, and use technology and go somewhere else, everyone's having a different conversation with their, significant other or their families or their children of what would we do now and what could we try?
Yeah.
So that's changing.
What about inventory are you seeing? And I know you're in Oakland. I mean, you have San Jose, San Francisco, Oakland, big cities there in the Bay Area. What are you seeing in regards to inventory beyond you, like through the Caldecott Tunnel, Walnut Creek? I mean, I know it's huge in the big cities.
Everyone seems to be pushing, like it's like one step forward for everyone. So if you're in Palo Alto, there's people. So first of all, what we are seeing is that inventory was started the year down 30%. Then it was moving up slowly. It plummeted 53% in May in the Oakland East Bay market, 53%. Now it's shot up, it's 5% up year over year. And we're starting to see more and more inventory come on. That could be a lot of things. It's the work from home becoming a real true reality. It's the election, it's the fires. There's a lot of things now. It's like one thing on top of the other that's pushing people forward to make decisions. Yeah. So what we're seeing is everyone seems to be going, maybe it's like one county out or one city. Right now, we are getting a lot of people leaving San Francisco that are coming to the East Bay, just for the mere fact of yards, better weather, less commute, right? The ability to go somewhere else, but not wanting to totally leave the Bay Area. So a lot of movement to Napa, Sonoma counties. There's a push from the East Bay to those counties.
Even Lake Tahoe, right? I mean, I saw
Tahoe's huge.
Yeah, I saw an article in the Chronicle. I don't know if it was over the weekend or maybe it was this week, but that someone from San Francisco knocked on the door of someone in Truckee up in Lake Tahoe and said, I want to buy your house. And the person's like, no. They're like, $2 million. And the person's like, no. But I mean, it's gotten to that point where you have these people who have, a lot of money in their homes in San Francisco that can do that, I guess. They can just walk up to someone and say, hey, I want your house right now.
Well, and let's look at this. We've got historically low interest rates, and they are going to stay low. When you're looking at 2.75 to 3.25% on $1.5 million or $2 million loan. That's, when are you going to be able to, I mean, if people really look at what's going on right now, there's an opportunity that is quite golden. In the midst of fires, pandemics, right? In the midst of all this chaos, there are some really good opportunities. And I don't think that the San Francisco Bay area is going to cease to exist after this. I just think there's an opening. There was a pressure. There's a lot of moving forces. And again, it's the companies that will make a decision that will really change the face of the area for a while, which is, will they demand that they come back, or will they continue with this trend and let them work from anywhere?
What do you think?
I think they're probably going to continue with the trend. And I think it's a good thing for our nation. I think it's a good thing for people to move and repopulate and go into other cities. I also think maybe summer in Austin and a winter in Montana might have people running back to the Bay Area. So
right.
we've got to get through a whole season of things before we can really say, is this permanent?
Is there risk though? I mean, is there risk when it comes to someone who, let's say, lives in the suburbs and they would make a lot of money on the sale of their house, and maybe they still want to stay in the Bay Area and they want to buy a new house, but obviously the prices are higher. Are you finding people who are in that kind of like, God, I could sell and make a lot of money and I can buy a house, but then my property tax will go up, and they're in that debate?
Yeah, no, that definitely is happening. And it depends on your market. There are some markets where the starter price is going to be incredibly, there's a huge amount of demand for that. But the next level up houses are diminishing in competition. So for those people that have a starter price home and could make a lot of money, but move into a house that isn't increasing as much, that is actually trading at a lower rate, those people are in for a really good, they're getting more house with a very low interest rate loan. They may pay more with property taxes, but there's an advantage for those folks. The ones breaking into the market, if it's whatever your price point may be, in Palo Alto in the South Bay, it's $2.5 million for a starter home. In the East Bay, it's getting closer to about $9 to $1 million. San Francisco is 1.3 to 1.5. So you can take, if you're a San Francisco person that wanted to buy, and now you're looking at, those interest rates in the East Bay, that's what we're seeing is, let's come on over and do that. We don't maybe have to commute for the next 2 years. Let's try this new opportunity. And
it's probably people in Tucson, Arizona going, what are those numbers again?
I know. When I talk about these numbers, it just sounds like, what? But that's part of the reason we're doing this right now, right? Is those numbers have been on a steady incline since 2011.
So I remember 12 years ago, the commercial real estate business in San Francisco just tanked, right? I mean, people were not making money, and then all of a sudden over the past decade, it's just exploded, right. At least in that particular city there. What's the state of just like agents, right? Is it a good time to be a real estate agent? There in the Bay Area, or is it just really cutthroat? I mean, it always kind of is a cutthroat business, but is it, or is it a tough time?
I think it's a good time. I think if you, especially if you know how to service and figure out what your clients' needs are. One thing that we are seeing in our roles right now is we're not just making a decision based on, hey, what do you think the value of my house is? I'm thinking of moving somewhere within, the city. We are really now consulting on what's your long-term plans? Like, what is the opportunities that you have right now? No one had this opportunity to what feels like retire from this area. I mean, think about this. It's the first time that you could actually go to some other place while not retiring, while still keeping your job. That has changed the conversation. So we're having to evolve with that conversation and look at what are the opportunities. I will say we are part of a referral company called Leading Real Estate Companies of the World, and it's a global referral exchange. And they have seen year over year something about, I think it's increased year over year, 53% with referrals going out throughout the company. And it's not just happening in California. It's happening in DC. It's happening in New York. It's happening in Europe. We are sending people to Europe for the first time. Yeah. So that says a lot. This is saying that this is a global movement.
Yeah. My brother's an agent, and he's out in Florida. And I thought it'd be tough over the last 5 months. He says he's been busy as ever, with people coming in from out of state, moving to Florida. I don't know if you can touch on this, but what about the rental market? Is that?
I haven't followed as much, but from anecdotally, from the people I've touched in on, and if you check on Zillow, what we are seeing, I think San Francisco and numbers are considerably down. Palo Alto, anyone that did not own already and have this new opportunity is like, why am I here? Yeah. Why am I staying? And especially, you got to realize, especially at the same time when nothing's really open in the Bay Area, nothing.
It goes down.
You pay $4 or $5 grand a month. You don't have to go to work. You could do it from your living room. all the, urban amenities are shut down. Like, why not just say, I can come back, I'm a renter. They don't have to put their house on the market, go through that whole thing and pull out of the Bay Area. They can just go and they can come back,
Yeah.
especially as the rents keep falling. They may be able to upgrade in a year. So yeah, I think that in the urban cities, the rentals, even in Oakland, it's starting to come down. Condos are we're starting to see a little bit of a depression in the condo market, a lot of inventory, drop in prices. So, but the rentals will be the first ones that go, and that's what we're seeing for sure.
I mean, at Red Oak Realty, are you guys? I mean, when you look out at the future, how do you plan to make more money during a pandemic? I mean, everyone who has a business wants revenue, right? You want to make money. Has your business plan at all changed? I mean, or are you just doing what you do?
Well, first, I would say I'm extraordinarily grateful, and I'm one of the lucky industries that saw a V recovery and became essential. I look out at, because in real estate, you're not just selling houses, you're really representing communities.
Hmm.
And when I look out and I see restaurants closing and bars closing and, small business owners losing their shirts over this,
Hmm.
I say, it's not so much about making money, it's about being able to be an essential service right now. And it's heartbreaking to look at these communities where we have represented clients, we are bringing people into them, and these services that make those communities so robust are compromised
Yeah.
because of the pandemic. So I would say, look, I'm a business owner and the goal is to bring in revenue and profit, but the first and foremost, it's just, I am super grateful that we were not where we were in the Great Recession, where real estate was,
Yeah.
the redheaded stepchild, and it was the last thing. What I think we've seen is a value shift in what home and what community really does mean, and we're sort of at the forefront of that. So that's kind of been an interesting experience. I'd say it's a much harder transaction. It might be robust right now,
Yeah.
but it's 5x the work to get people into houses. There's legal documents that have to be signed. There's medical requirements. My office turned into what used to be a harmonious area where everyone came together. It looks like the CDC now. You've got to get your temperature taken and a tracing doc, and we keep very little staff in there. So, things have changed and we've adjusted, but it's not, although it's a robust industry right now, it's not easy to transact in.
I don't see those open house signs on Sundays
They're
at the
gone.
corner down the street that I saw before. I mean, because right now I would, but you don't even have open homes.
No, we do virtual open homes now. So you could
Yeah.
find us. We do Instagram lives. We brought everything in. We do a lot of video. We've hired in-house. So my business has changed where I'm bringing videography inside. I'm making sure all my platforms of ease of transaction signing and disclosures is all done virtually. Our appointments are all done just like this. I mean, it's just pivoted online. But the great part is it happened overnight and we are adapting and there is still commerce.
It did. And as you said, I mean, millions of Americans don't even have jobs right now. And yet here we are talking
Right.
about this.
Right.
Very grateful to be working myself and having this conversation here. So, Vanessa Bergmark with Red Oak Realty, the CEO. Appreciate your time. Very interesting
Thank you.
conversation and have a great weekend here.
Thanks so much.